Star Trek is something that's near and dear to my heart. When I was 4 years old, I watched the original series in syndication. But it wasn't until Next Generation where I really truly developed an appreciation for the show. It was something that I just casually watched up until Season 3 with the episode Yesterday's Enterprise. And let me tell you, that episode blew me away. It was a vast improvement over what we got with Season 1, which is still better by today's standards when it comes to entertainment. Largely because it took a few seasons for the show to go and truly find its footing, much like what we saw with DS9. However, after DS9, it's been a, well, let's just say diminishing returns. For me, Voyager was largely hit or miss, and Enterprise was Enterprise. And then along came J.J. Abrams and his new iteration of Star Trek, which put more emphasis on action rather than science and space exploration. It was fine for what it was, but it was not Star Trek. And then along came Alex Kurtzman, who needs to be fired out of the cannon into the sun. Based off of what I was hearing about STD, I really didn't bother going and watching the show. But along came Picard. And since I was a die-hard TNG fan, well, I forced myself to watch it. Boy, was that a mistake. Because it was a miserable experience. Everything I loved about Star Trek wasn't present in the show. The utopian optimistic future? Gone. Mankind unified? Gone. Emphasis on resolving issues and finding commonality? Gone. Exploring complex issues without clubbing you over the head with it? Gone. Respect for legacy and what comes before it? Gone. Level-headed but fallible Captain Picard with an emphasis on resolving issues rather than conflict? Gone. Replaced with a low-T android, who continues to apologize for existing. If Star Trek was food, Star Trek Picard is vomit. Sure, it may have started off as Star Trek, but it's been shoved into a grinder and masticated to the point where you can't even recognize it anymore. And after being violently expelled, you don't want anything to do with it, so you flush it down the toilet hoping that it never returns. So when Season 2 rolled around, I had absolutely zero interest in watching it. Nobody likes vomiting, let alone shitting their pants, which is basically what Season 2 was. So when Robert Meyer Burnett came along saying that Star Trek Picard Season 3 was actually pretty good, needless to say, I was rather skeptical. So, after much trepidation and trusting several other people I know that said that the season was good, Gary from Nerdrotic and Dave Cullen, I sat my ass down and watched the first episode of Season 3 of Picard. And you know what? Blood didn't immediately start squirting from my eyes when the episode ended, and I didn't automatically shit myself 30 minutes later after watching it. And so far, I have to say, I didn't hate it, and I didn't want to throw myself down an elevator shaft onto some bullets. Is it Star Trek? Not 100%. Are there moments of Star Trek? Sure. Does it have the trappings of the previous 2 seasons and the stink of Alex Kurtzman on it? Absolutely. Does it completely undo the damage of what has been done to Star Trek? Absolutely not. But it's a start. And it feels like it was made by someone who doesn't absolutely hate Star Trek. Would I consider it to be Star Trek? Not really. But it certainly does have Star Trek moments. I know this isn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but I try and remain skeptically optimistic. Now, the episode begins with Beverly Crusher and an unknown male being attacked on the SS Elias, which I'm guessing is a science vessel, even though it looks more like a cargo ship from the inside. Beverly goes and locks the unnamed male in a separate section of the ship, and my immediate thoughts are, oh, here we go, yet another girl boss, as we go and have Crusher go and annihilate the aliens that are invading the ship. Now, I have to say, I didn't exactly feel like this was in character for Beverly Crusher, but by the time we get to the end of the episode, we find out that the unnamed man is actually Jack, Beverly Crusher's son. Thank God it's not Wesley. So, is it in character for a mother to go and protect her son? Yeah, I actually think it kinda is. So I'm actually willing to give that moment a pass. Now, there are some things I thought were kinda stupid, like the fact that we have phaser shotguns, pump action phaser shotguns, with only 5 rounds. Yeah, that's kinda dumb. After being wounded, Beverly goes and tries to contact Jean-Luc Picard using an encrypted message. And it just so happens that Jean-Luc had his old uniform and badge in a box lying around not too far away from him when he hears it going off. How convenient. Beverly tells Jean-Luc that he can't trust Starfleet and therefore not to involve them. so he goes and seeks out his old friend Captain William Riker. Both of them decide that they're going to go and find Beverly Crusher. In order to do so, they need a ship. And how do they get one? They spring a surprise inspection on the USS Titan A, which has been retrofitted as a Neo-Constitution class starship. And might I have to say, the ship looks pretty badass. Their hope is to go and convince the new captain of the Titan, Liam Shaw, to go and help them find Beverly Crusher, which he promptly refuses. But it just so happens that the second in command happens to be an old friend, 7 of 9. Wait, what? How is 7 of 9 an old friend of Jean-Luc Picard? I don't think this was ever established. On top of that, when did she join Starfleet? And how did she get promoted to the rank where she could be second in command of a ship? Sure, she served on Voyager, and potentially she could have been fast-tracked, but none of this really makes that much sense. Mainly because there's missing context. It's something that they could have easily cleared up with some dialogue. It's not something that requires an in-depth flashback that goes and explains everything. Anyway, 7 of 9 goes and changes course to go and help find Beverly Crusher. Meanwhile, Raffi, who is still annoying, is now a Starfleet intelligence officer, and she is searching for a quantum tunneling device and is later used in a terrorist attack on a Federation building. Back on the Titan, Shaw discovers that the course of the ship has been changed, pinning it on 7 of 9, Riker, and Picard. But before he can have them detained, Picard and Riker steal shuttlecraft and head over to Beverly's ship. There they find Jack, a wounded Beverly Crusher who is in stasis, in a large, unknown enemy vessel that is closing in on them. Now there's things I liked about the episode, and things I didn't like about the episode. I really liked Captain Shaw. He had a real stick up his ass, but you could tell that he really cared about his crew and wasn't up for shenanigans. Jonathan Frakes pretty much carries the episode because Patrick Stewart is still suffering from low T. It's very apparent that he can slip back into the part of Riker like putting on an old well-fitted glove. And the performances between the two of them is pretty believable as Riker and Picard. The ship designs were not copy and paste. The Neo-Constitution class actually looked pretty damn cool. Picard was actually being treated with respect rather than being shit on the entire episode. And overall, the episode didn't feel dour, cynical, or hopeless. However, it still doesn't have that utopian optimism that the original Trek had. And at times, like when Raffi was doing her investigation, it felt more like Mass Effect than anything else. Also, would it kill them to turn the lights up on the bridge? This isn't a submarine, unless that's the effect that they're trying to go for. And what's up with all the unnecessary F-bombs? I like saying fuck as much as the next guy, but it doesn't belong in Star Trek. The other major problem is, it's still fucking Kurtzman Trek.
Then you'll be fired. Fine. Out of a cannon into the sun.
Fuck that guy. But, like I said, this is a step in the right direction. Because in order for us to have a positive change in entertainment, we also have to call out the good as well, even though it's not perfect or what we think it should be. If you're like myself and you've been burned by Kurtzman Trek and you don't want to watch it, I get that too. If we continue to call out the good, maybe one of these days we might actually get real Star Trek. Or we could continue to get garbage. It feels like kind of a crapshoot these days. If you enjoyed this review, I suggest you go and check out my video about Ant-Man. You might find it funny, or you might not. That's right, click the thing, or nothing will happen.